This parasite. I was suddenly called by my husband to visit his parents' house. I figured he probably couldn't drive home because he was drunk. So, I started the car and headed to my in-laws' house. However, what awaited me was a malicious grin on my mother-in-law's face. She suddenly drenched me in beer and hurled insults at me, leaving me in shock. But in the next moment, rage welled up inside me. Wiping the beer off my face, I managed to say, "I'll be leaving now." And with that, I left my parents' house behind. Just before I left, I saw the puzzled faces of some relatives in the corner of my eye, but I had no capacity to care. My name is Anna. I'm 30 years old. Since graduating from college, I've been working at a wholesale dealer a bit away from my hometown. Work is going fairly well, and I don't have any particular hardships in life. But there was one thing I was struggling with. And that was how shy I was around people. Since my school days, this made it hard for me to make friends. Even when people talked to me, I often responded coldly, yet I couldn't bring myself to join in on conversations. I just got too nervous talking to people. Despite this, I can't thank those who became friends with me. When I first became aware of my shyness, it didn't bother me much. But one day, as I was walking down the hallway at school, I suddenly heard people speaking ill of me. They said I was cold, had a bad attitude, and was full of myself. There was more, but I couldn't take it in. Realizing that this was how people saw me, my legs gave out. But I knew I couldn't let them find me like this. Somehow, I forced myself to flee from there. Since then, I've been troubled by my lack of communication skills. Worried that I might make others uncomfortable and earn their disdain. Eventually, this inability to communicate became complex for me. And it didn't change even after I became an adult. Moving away from my hometown for work meant I was separated from friends I had spent so much time with. We kept in touch, but the lack of face-to-face meetings and spending time alone made me feel lonely. Being shy yet hating loneliness was an unpleasant reality for me. I wondered, what kind of selfish person am I, as my concerns only grew. However, upon getting a job, I thought this might be a chance to change myself. But reality was not so kind. Old habits die hard, and I remain unable to speak up at work. Fortunately, my coworkers were kind and made efforts to talk to me. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that their kindness was why I could do my job well. But I knew I couldn't rely on this situation forever. I resolved to break out of my current state and become more proactive. Thanks to that, by the time 2 years had passed since I started my job, I had become significantly less shy. I still felt nervous, but I could join conversations and communicate better. Yet, I wasn't satisfied. Looking back, it's clear I've grown since my student days. But I couldn't feel content because my complex was too significant. Then one day, I met Ryan, who would become my husband. My life and perspectives changed drastically after meeting him. Ryan was helping out at one of our client stores, a business run by his parents. By chance, I dealt with him when the usual contact was away, which became a significant turning point in our relationship. Ryan was gentle and seemed happy to talk even to someone he had barely met, like me. He responded with a smile whenever I initiated a conversation. I had met people like him before. But with Ryan, I felt something different. I wanted to talk more with him. To know more about him. Even though we had barely spoken, I felt drawn to him. By some coincidence, Ryan seemed to feel the same way. At first, we would just chat briefly when he visited the office, but eventually, we exchanged contacts and started meeting outside of work. As we spent more time together, our relationship deepened, moving from friends to lovers. And 2 years after we started dating, Ryan proposed, and we became husband and wife. His parents seemed kind, which was reassuring. "I'll definitely make you happy." I'll never forget the words Ryan said when he proposed. I was excited for our happy life to begin. Dreaming about our future together, my heart was filled with excitement. But later, I would come to know the true nature of Ryan and his parents, facing the harsh realities of life once again. After marrying Ryan, my life seemed richer. Coming home tired from work, the loving that made me happy. And he always had comforting words for me. It might seem like an everyday scene for a married couple. But for me, it was a source of happiness. Ryan helped out his parents' business while working at a company. Despite being busier than I was, he never showed his fatigue. "How's the store doing lately?" "Good, it seems to be going well." "When should I come help out next?" "Let's see." Feeling guilty for always having Ryan help out at his parents' store, I started volunteering more actively. Initially, I was told, "You don't have to worry about it," but gradually, they began to rely on me more. I took on tasks like arranging products, managing inventory, and even doing stock taking when the season allowed. It was clear from our everyday conversations that Ryan and his parents cherished the store. I was happy to feel that I was contributing. However, a year after we got married, things began to change dramatically. The family store started to struggle financially. It had been doing well until a large supermarket opened nearby, drawing away our customers. We tried increasing our advertising efforts and expanding our product range, but nothing seemed to work. "What should we do if this continues?" "Yeah, really." Every time I went to help, Ryan's parents discussed their concerns with desperate voices, making my heart ache. "It's looking bad, isn't it?" Ryan seemed different, too. It was understandable. The store he had helped with his whole life was facing a crisis. I alone couldn't make a difference for the store. Yet, I was determined to do whatever I could to help with the store's management. But all my efforts were in vain, and the store eventually had to close. I couldn't help but wonder if there was something more I could have done, filled with regret. I couldn't find the right words to comfort Ryan's or my parents, struggling with the closure. This event led to a significant breakdown in our marriage. Ryan's parents, who were once kind, started treating me coldly. "It's your fault the store closed." "What?" After the store closed, I was helping clean up when Ryan's parents seemed in a bad mood from the moment we met, making me more nervous than usual. Suddenly, my mother-in-law sighed heavily and blurted out. I couldn't comprehend what I was being accused of and failed to respond. "Well..." My father-in-law followed suit, hurling hurtful words at me. "Ever since you got married, there's been one bad thing after another. What are you going to do about it, you bringer of misfortune?" "Wait, a bringer of misfortune?" Could Ryan's parents believe I had brought some bad luck to their family? It was such a baseless accusation. Having been treated kindly before, their harsh words now made my heart ache. "Why all of a sudden?" "Do you want to say it's not true?" The large supermarket opened near the store's business declined, and it closed down, all happening within this past year, right after you joined our family. "That's not fair." "Unfair? No way. If you hadn't married into this family, none of this would have happened. Just like your father said, a bringer of misfortune." I was stunned by such irrational thinking. What about Ryan? What did he think? I turned to speak to him, who was working behind me. Just as he spoke, "Mom and Dad are right. Why did I even marry you? If I had married someone else, the store wouldn't have closed." "Even Ryan?" I was shocked. To have Ryan and his parents turn against me like this. It's the truth, isn't it? You are a destroyer of what's dear to us. You managed to live unbothered, without considering our feelings. Ryan's expression was colder than I'd ever seen. His parents continued to berate me. And I wanted to run away then and there. But escaping would only lead to more harsh words, and I didn't have the strength to retort. I stood there, unable to do anything. From then on, the way Ryan and his parents treated me changed significantly. Returning from work, Ryan no longer greeted me with a smile. I no longer heard his voice, thanking me for the day or sharing his experiences joyfully. "Hey, dinner. Make it quick." "Sorry, I'll get it ready." "Stop dawdling. That's why you are how you are." Ryan gave me a cold look and words before turning his attention back to the TV he was watching. I knew that getting back to how we were before would be impossible. Even if we could, I can't imagine how many years it would take. I started preparing dinner, taking in visits to our house increased significantly. Either because they had nothing else to do after the store closed or just wanted to harass me. Honestly, their frequent visits were troubling. All they did when they came over was to complain to me. The more I look at you, the more unimpressive you seem. It's embarrassing that someone like you is my daughter-in-law. Ryan, why did you choose her? I wonder why I can't remember anymore. Hearing their conversation made me feel more saddened than angry. If he truly couldn't remember why he chose me, it meant he had lost interest in me. Not remembering is pretty harsh, isn't it? You don't really think it's that bad, do you? You caught me. Their bad-mouthing continued, blatantly making sure I could hear. If that's how it's going to be, should we get a divorce? I interjected, feeling humiliated. But the response I got was something I hadn't anticipated. Divorce? No way we're allowing that. Right, Mom? Yes. Divorce looks bad, doesn't it? What if Ryan ends up in a worse situation because of it? You can't take responsibility for that. I was cornered by their stern faces, unable to say anything. Looking at Ryan, it seemed he agreed with his parents. Not denying anything they said. Despite mentioning it, I didn't have the courage to initiate a divorce myself. In the end, all I could do was live each day feeling unsettled. Half a year into this way of life, Ryan's father got sick and was hospitalized. According to Ryan and his parents, it was apparently my fault that his father got sick, along with everything else, including the store's closure. They just couldn't wait to blame me for anything. You really are a curse. To think my father would end up in the hospital. He had been healthy all his life until you came into our family, and now everything's a mess. How are you going to take responsibility? It was indeed sad and worrying that his father had gotten sick. But being blamed for it was troubling. I'm at a loss here with you saying things like that. We're the ones who are truly at a loss. Ugh, this is just terrible. His mother dramatically held her head, sighing deeply. Don't cause any more trouble for Mom and Dad. Am I the one to blame? Obviously. Ryan glared at me just like his mother. I wondered why Ryan decided to marry me. Being constantly blamed made me question my existence. Hey, could you pay for Dad's hospital bills? The store's gone, and we're out of money. Of course. We both work, after all. I'm really sorry about this, it's her fault. It's fine, Ryan. You don't have to apologize. Without letting me have a say, it was decided that we would pay for his father's hospital bills from our joint finances. I understood that his parents were going through a tough time and had no issue with paying the bills. However, the fact that they didn't even consider discussing it with me left me feeling frustrated. It wasn't that I wanted to interfere, but it was a financial matter, after all. What? That dissatisfied look. Is it about the hospital bills? Haven't we told you it's your fault Dad is in the hospital? Besides, wouldn't you normally offer to pay? You're just as thoughtless as your mother says. It's not like that. Don't make excuses. Yelled at by his mother, I kept quiet. I knew that no matter how much I tried to explain, it would all be taken as excuses. Yes. I responded and didn't speak again after that. Even with his father's hospitalization, Ryan and his parents' attitude towards me didn't change. In fact, it seemed to get worse. Ryan began to bring up financial matters more often. It's your fault my dad's in the hospital. It's a good thing I earn more. Do you even realize how fortunate you are to live comfortably because of me? Honestly, our salaries hadn't changed. If anything, I earned slightly more. Yet, Ryan insisted he was the higher earner and became increasingly harsh towards me. I had shown him my pay slips and tried to explain the truth. But he never believed me. When I visited his father in the hospital, I was greeted with, "You curse. Who do you think caused all this?" His mother continued to visit our home, dishing out nothing but sarcastic comments. I was at my breaking point. I wanted to leave everything behind and escape. It was during this time that an unexpected opportunity arose. It was about 3 months after my father-in-law had been hospitalized. That day, Ryan had gone to his parents' house since the morning, leaving me alone for a brief respite. However, around noon, Ryan called me. "Come over here now," he said, his voice clearly indicating he was quite drunk. I replied lightly and drove to his parents' house. Upon ringing the bell, Ryan's mother, who seemed in high spirits, greeted me. "Oh, you finally made it." She appeared to have been drinking a lot, as the smell of alcohol was strong. Inside, as I expected, in addition to a drunk Ryan, there were relatives gathered that we usually only see during weddings and funerals. "We wanted to drink, so we called a bunch over." "Anna, you're here. Get me some water, quick." I was still trying to grasp the situation when I was met with Ryan's mother's malicious grin, holding a glass in her hand. "The leech and spoiler of our family," she sneered, before dousing me with the beer she was holding. My mind went blank. The smell of beer drenching me made me realize what had just happened. What a relief. "Mom, what are you doing?" In the next moment, anger surged within me. Wiping the beer off my face, I managed to say one thing. "I'm leaving now." With that, I left Ryan's parents' house. Right before I left, I saw the puzzled faces of the relatives, but I had no room to care for them. I went home and began to prepare for my return to my parents' house. Every time I saw the clothes stained with beer that I had discarded, the scene at Ryan's parents' house replayed in my mind. Since I didn't have many belongings, packing was done quickly. I could have headed straight to my parents' house, but I wanted to talk to Ryan one last time. So, I waited for his return. An hour after I left Ryan's parents' house, Ryan came home, panting. "Hey! What's this about suddenly leaving?" "Suddenly leaving? Don't you understand I left because I was drenched in beer? That was just Mom messing around. There's no need to be so upset about it." "Messing around? You think this can just be brushed off?" A single apology from him could have calmed me down a bit. But here, I was being blamed for leaving suddenly again. No need to hold back anymore. "Exactly." "What do you mean, exactly?" "That's it, I want a divorce. I've reached my limit." "Huh. Don't just say things like that suddenly. We should talk more about this." "There's no point in talking anymore. You're just going to blame me with your mother, aren't you? Here, the divorce papers. I've already filled out my part, just sign your part and submit it." Saying this, I pulled out the divorce papers I had kept in my bag and handed them to Ryan. "So, you had the divorce papers prepared all along?" "Because I'm serious. Preparing divorce papers is a normal thing, right? So, please take care of the rest." "Hey!" I pressed the divorce papers into Ryan's hand and left the house. I could hear him making a fuss behind me, but I decided to ignore it completely. After that, I headed to my parents' house. "Why didn't you talk to us?" The first time I explained the situation, I could tell my mother was angry even over the phone. Her kindness and my own inability to consult my parents sooner made me feel pathetic, and I started to cry. After driving for a few hours, I arrived at my parents' house. Ringing the doorbell, my worried parents greeted me. Seeing their faces, I collapsed right there, all strength leaving my body. Parents truly are incredible. I felt that deeply. The next day, my heart had settled down a bit. I explained the situation to my work and took some time off. "I made plenty, so feel free to have seconds." "Yeah. Thank you." I hadn't had much appetite the day I returned home and couldn't join my family at the dinner table. Because of that, the breakfast my mother made tastes especially good. "You're eating well." "I haven't been eating much." "I see. Well, there are no enemies here, so do as you please." Yeah. Thank you. My father was right. Here, there are no enemies. I won't have to endure any more snide remarks or unpleasant attitudes. It's sad that such ordinary things make me so happy, but it's probably because of what I've been through until now. Just as I was feeling relieved, the doorbell rang. I'll get it, my father said and headed to the entrance. But the moment the front door opened, I heard my father's shouting voice. Why are you here? My father rarely raises his voice. Could it be? Is Anna here? Let me see her. Sure enough, it was Ryan who had come visiting. Anna isn't here. Leave now. But Anna's car is here, isn't it? And her shoes too. There's no use trying to deceive me. Ryan was being assertive even towards my father. Neither was willing to back down, and the argument only grew louder. I knew it wouldn't end unless I stepped out. I stood up and walked towards the entrance. Ryan, what are you doing here, coming all this way? Anna. Please, let's talk. All right? Hey, keep it down. Anna's troubled because of you, so please leave. Dad, thank you. It's okay. Ryan, what do you want to talk about? After thanking my father, I took his place in front of Ryan. I want you to reconsider the divorce. It's troubling being told this so one-sidedly. One-sided? You're making it sound like it's my fault. Have you forgotten it's initially your family's fault? Our fault? Ryan seemed about to grab me, but perhaps realizing he was crossing a line, he lowered his hand gently. Yes. All these unfounded accusations you make. Can't you see it from my perspective for once? And the divorce papers? There's no way I'd submit those. I threw them away. What are you doing? I told you to leave them out. I had considered he might throw them away. But facing reality still infuriated me. And you? Do you think you can live without me? Relying on your parents forever isn't going to work. It's like you were living off my earnings. His self-centered remarks made me doubt my ears. What are you talking about? I've shown you my paycheck multiple times, haven't I? You chose not to believe it, claiming it was forged. Don't worry about me. I just want a divorce. That's all I'm asking for. Don't worry. I can't just stand by saying that. I'm your husband. Don't start playing the husband card now. Besides, I'm just a curse and leech, right? Might as well get divorced. I'll send the papers again, so please leave for today. If you come back, I'll call the police, okay? The police? He hadn't expected the word police to come up. Ryan left the house dumbfounded. Hopefully never to return. But knowing Ryan, he might take an action I can't even predict, maybe even conspiring with his mother. I sighed heavily, foreseeing an unsettled period ahead. 2 weeks later, Ryan and I were still not divorced. Although I had sent the divorce papers, they ended up being torn up each time. Considering involving a lawyer, Ryan messaged me asking to wait a bit longer. I could have ignored him and proceeded with a lawyer. But my anger had subsided enough to grant his last request. All right. I agreed and waited for further contact from Ryan. However, a month and a half later, Ryan contacted me with unexpected news. Is it true you moved? Indeed, I had moved to a new house. A high-rise condo worth $100 million. I felt bad always relying on my parents. So when I saw a property that perfectly matched my tastes and lifestyle, I didn't hesitate. Naturally, I hadn't told Ryan. Confused by his knowledge of my move, I froze. What? How do you know that? Well, out with it. After pressing him, Ryan finally confessed a few seconds later. I hired a private investigator. A private investigator? My voice echoed in the still sparsely furnished mansion. I thought if you were cheating, I could claim alimony. So, I figured why not have you investigated? Cheating? What were you thinking? If anyone should be receiving alimony, it's me. I have no obligation to pay you alimony. And why did you move to such a huge house? You're supposed to be broke. Why does it matter to you? What I do is my business. As I declared my independence, the other side of the phone suddenly became noisy. Prepared for anything. I was surprised when the voice that came through next wasn't Ryan's. Why hasn't the money for Dad's hospital bills been transferred yet? If Dad can't stay in the hospital because of this, what will you do? I'm getting a divorce. We're not related anymore, right? How can you say we're not related? You've said it yourself many times that it's your fault Dad is in the hospital. Can you not make such baseless accusations? It's really annoying. I said, a stark contrast from my previous timid self. I wanted them to understand that, so I spoke without holding back. My mother-in-law seemed slightly taken aback by my new demeanor but quickly tried to steer the conversation her way. Oh, acting all high and mighty, are we? Just so you know, I'm aware of where you live. I could come over and have a talk if necessary. Oh, planning on visiting? That's fine. It's not like it's a secret. Continuing the conversation over the phone seemed pointless. I boldly decided to invite Ryan and my mother-in-law to my house. You want to talk face to face, right? When should we do it? My invitation apparently caught my mother-in-law off guard. However, she quickly accepted it, perhaps seeing it as an opportunity, and started discussing her and Ryan's schedule with enthusiasm. A week later, Ryan and my mother-in-law arrived at my house. They were visibly astonished by the unfamiliar furnishings and amenities. Their expressions were comically surprised. Please, have a seat here. I directed them to the new sofa I had purchased and started the conversation. So, what's so important that you had to come over to talk about? Well, about your father's hospital bills. How are you going to handle it? Living in such a house is infuriating. And how could you afford a place like this? Are you seeing someone else besides Ryan? Throwing all that at me at once is a bit much, don't you think? Especially since the private investigator confirmed I wasn't cheating. My mother-in-law was visibly agitated. The old me would have been scared, but now I had nothing to fear. Firstly, about the house. I've been trading Forex. Forex? I didn't know about that. I had been doing Forex trading before marrying Ryan. It wasn't particularly profitable at first, so I didn't talk about it much. However, as I got better, I started making significant profits. By then, our relationship had soured, and I didn't feel like sharing. I was afraid he would take all my earnings. So, you've been using that money? Yes. I also used the profits from my Forex trading to pay for your father's hospital bills. It seemed like the best option considering our financial situation. But now that we're divorcing, I don't see why I should continue paying. You did all that behind my back. Originally, I was transferring money from your account to your mother's. And if you're making more than I am, there's no need for all this fuss, right? Considering Ryan's past comments, his panic was unwarranted. Who was it again that said our lifestyle was thanks to them? It sure doesn't sound like you were counting on my income. I never said that. What? Pretending you didn't? That's pretty lame. What? They both seemed lost. But there was no way I was going to wait for them to catch up. Seizing the moment to press my advantage, I spoke up again. But really, what's with the plague-bringer accusations? Knowing that such a person has been paying your father's hospital bills, doesn't that embarrass you? It seems like you're still hoping to get money out of me, which is just the lowest of the low. Childish, really. Or is it childish to be making these wild accusations in the first place? I didn't know about your financial situation. Even so, it's odd. To question me, a supposed plague-bringer and parasite, about your father's hospital bills. Shouldn't you be discussing this with Ryan? Ryan said he didn't know. With that, my mother-in-law turned to Ryan. Her gaze suggesting she thought herself blameless. Me? Do you even realize your father's been hospitalized? Why are you not aware? You leave everything to me, and when something goes wrong, it's all my fault. Unbelievable. Why did I ever marry someone like you? After throwing their words back at them, Ryan and my mother-in-law turned their faces away from me. Is there anything else you want to talk about? If not, I think we're done here. Wait! They had nothing more to say. So I was about to end the conversation. I don't want a divorce even now. Please, reconsider. Me too, please rethink this. It was clear their reluctance to divorce wasn't because they cared about me, but because they were eyeing my money. It's quite refreshing, but this is not the time to be impressed. Enough. I've been telling you I want a divorce. It's not me you're looking at, but my money. It disgusts me. Here's the divorce paper, sign it already. I have plenty of spares, so tearing it up like you always do is pointless. I won't ask for alimony, but if you push me further, I'll reconsider. And if you come to this house again, I'll call the police. Got it? With anger fueling my words, I thrust the divorce papers at Ryan. It seemed he finally understood that my feelings wouldn't change. After signing the divorce papers, Ryan and his mother left the house. Good riddance. Feeling relieved and vindicated, I held the completed divorce papers, feeling the weight of the ordeal lift off my shoulders. Following that, I filed the papers. And the divorce was finalized. In the days following the divorce, Ryan sent numerous messages complaining about his fight with his mother, his inability to pay for his father's hospital expenses, and more. Of course, I didn't bother responding. He mentioned that life was getting tough, but that was no concern of mine. Similar messages came from his father and mother, which were just as annoying. His father even tried to elicit sympathy by detailing his health woes. But I hadn't visited him, so I couldn't verify any of it. The most I could do was guess that maybe his condition wasn't as bad as he made it out to be. I answered a call from Ryan once, where he only talked about money. Hey, you're making money, right? Can't you spare some? All you ever talk about is money. There's no way I'm helping you now. You can struggle for all I care. With that, I hung up and decided to ignore any further contact from Ryan and his parents. Thankfully, a month after the divorce was finalized, the calls and messages stopped coming. It's been a year since the divorce. I live a comfortable life on my own, though the vastness of the mansion still feels unfamiliar. And while I have no plans to remarry, living alone does get lonely sometimes. So, I decided to share my life with 2 cats. Now, I enjoy a happy life with my feline companions. My job and forex trading are going well, and I often think about how good it was to get divorced. Waking up to a normal day, I wonder what I'll do and what I'll eat. As I plan my day and start preparing the cat's breakfast, I'm reminded of the peaceful life I've built for myself. So, are we taking the car today, or your place? Let's go to a hotel. On my way back from the hospital, I saw my husband walking hand in hand with a young woman. Who in the world is she? She was dressed in revealing clothing, and I think she was over 10 years younger than my husband. She didn't look like someone from his work. Could it be an affair? Even though it was on the way back from a donor test for a disease he was diagnosed with. I somehow managed to keep my emotions in check and confronted my husband with a glare when he returned home that evening. I saw you walking with a young woman. What's that all about? Betraying me like this is the lowest. How could you do something so awful? What do you think you are? Do you think you're such a great woman? Marriage is supposed to be supported by the man, and the moment a woman stops being a woman, it's over. Men always want young and attractive women. What is he talking about? There's no way marriage can fall apart for such selfish reasons. It seems like my husband is trying to justify his cheating. I will never forgive him. You menopausal hag are not needed. Should I divorce you? Divorce? I've been thinking about it for a while, but you never get pregnant, and as a woman, you're finished. You look old, and you're completely unattractive, so I've wanted to leave you. That's why I cheated and was drawn to a younger woman. It's obvious, right? Fine, then let's get a divorce. But don't forget, you're the one carrying a big bomb in your body. And who's going to help you with that? My name is Kelly. I'm currently working as an office clerk at a small-sized business. Although I'm working as a clerk, I originally joined the company as a salesperson. I'm back. Welcome back. How was it today? Well, I got brushed off lightly. I'm sorry, I couldn't secure the deal even though it was a project our coworker had been warming up. Don't worry too much about it. It can't be helped, so don't get too down on yourself. He was the coworker responsible for my training. He was truly kind to me. He taught me everything from scratch about sales, and I was trying my best to follow his teachings, but I think my personality, not being very assertive and shrinking away at even a slightly domineering attitude, wasn't suited for it. My sales performance was always closer to the bottom, and I felt out of place in the company. Because it was a small to medium-sized business, everyone was talking about working hard together to increase the company's sales, but I felt like I was the only one holding everyone back. I wondered if I should quit, or maybe I should switch to a different profession. That's when I started to think. Can I have a moment? Oh, what's up? I heard we're looking for a new office clerk. That's right. The company has grown a bit, and we're thinking of adding more people to handle the administrative tasks. Do you know someone who wants to apply? Not exactly. I was wondering if it would be okay for me to apply. I've been trying hard in sales for the past 2 years, but I haven't been able to produce much results. I feel like I'm dragging everyone else down. Even when there's a good project, I can't make it a success because it's me. There have been many instances like that. So, if it's possible, I'd like to work as an office clerk. I see. To me, it seemed like moving to an office clerk position and filling the sales position from outside would be beneficial for the company. Of course, I felt sorry for the coworker who had trained me, but it was also a relief for me mentally. I understand. I've heard from other employees about the struggles you're facing, and I think you can handle administrative tasks to a certain extent, so if you're okay with it, let's go ahead and make that change. Really? But about the salary, it's going to be what an office clerk makes, is that okay? Of course. No problem at all. Understood. I started working as an office clerk right away, and since I only had to deal with employees I got along with, there was no need to be overly cautious or tense. Indeed, the salary was less compared to when I was in sales, but being able to work without accumulating stress truly brightened my days. Then, through an acquaintance, I started dating a man, and both my work and personal life were fulfilling. I vow to always cherish you. Will you marry me? Really? You really want to marry me? Of course. I'll always protect you. I was overjoyed to the point of tears when my boyfriend proposed. I had always lacked confidence in myself, believing there was no one who would want to marry someone like me. That had always been my belief, so the proposal overwhelmed me emotionally. Moving from sales to an administrative position was also one of my complexes. I couldn't properly handle even a single task given to me. I had been a negative thinker originally and had convinced myself of this for a while. Of course, while the stress from work had disappeared, the fact that my self-confidence continued to diminish was undeniable. That's why I vowed to cherish him, the one who chose me. In my heart, I swore that I would. After that, our married life began, and we lived a problem-free life as a working couple. However, hey, could you cover the living expenses? In exchange, I'll save up. You mean I pay everything? Yeah. I'll take out my allowance and save the rest. That's okay, right? This is one of my flaws, but when spoken to harshly, I find myself unable to talk back. I was only making a modest salary as an office clerk, so after paying for rent, groceries, and utilities, there wasn't much money left over. Upon getting married, we moved into a reasonably large apartment and, though it was used, we also bought a car. We had agreed to split expenses equally, so I assumed that's how it would be. Got it. But I'm a bit surprised. I had assumed we'd split everything. It's easier if you handle all the expenses, right? As for savings, I'll manage all of that, so don't worry. Well, if my husband says so, maybe it's for the best. Plus, if he's putting most of his salary into savings, I figure we could save up a substantial amount in a short period. We were hoping to have kids in the future, so I wanted to save as much as possible. That's why I accepted his proposal. However, after getting married, he started going out more at night. Hello, you're not coming home yet? I'm going out drinking with colleagues tonight, so I won't be home until late. Again? What? I'm not your parent. Don't butt into my private life. It's my business who I go out drinking with, isn't it? Yeah. Sure, we had agreed not to interfere with each other's private lives after getting married. And it's not that I'm against him going out to drink. It's just frustrating when he goes out without any communication. I get home earlier than him, so I cook and wait. There's a usual time he comes home, and I even prepare the bath, so I wish he would at least call. If he let me know, I'd just make something quick to eat and take a bath after finishing the chores. Just a simple message would do. I've brought this up a few times, but my husband didn't seem to care at all. Maybe he doesn't understand because he doesn't cook or do household chores himself. And then, his personality changes when he drinks. That's why I couldn't really say much. Hey, the lord of the house has returned. Welcome back. Oh, hello. Sorry, it seems he got pretty drunk. Sorry for the trouble. Thank you for bringing him home. Around midnight that day, my husband was brought home by a coworker he had been drinking with. He was so drunk he couldn't walk on his own. I couldn't help but be frustrated that he, being an adult, didn't know his own limits when drinking. Since he was drunk, saying anything to him would be pointless. I thanked the coworker who brought him home and took my husband to bed. He fell asleep right away and around noon the next day. Hey, got any medicine? Medicine? For what? What? Obviously, for a hangover. Why do I have to spell it out? You should have prepared that, knowing I went drinking. Sorry, I'll go buy some right now. Make it quick, and be back in 10 minutes. What does he think I am? I sighed but went to the nearby pharmacy by bike without a complaint. It was already winter, and just riding the bike made my dry skin on my face and hands painfully dry. If he's going to drink, he should buy his medicine beforehand. Why do I have to do this? As I went to buy it, I felt anger towards my husband bubbling up inside. I'm home. I got the medicine. You took your time. You're slow at everything. That's why you can only be an office clerk. Even though I went out of my way to buy it, not a single word of thanks. Can't even say thank you. I was truly appalled, but it's not like I was expecting anything from my husband. Well, someone who's used to bossing people around probably doesn't have gratitude in their vocabulary. So, he can't even say thank you. Well, it's not my problem. While complaining, my husband took the medicine from me, swallowed it, changed clothes, and then left the house. Going out again. It was his day off, so he can do whatever he wants, but I did wish he would help out with the chores a bit. I take care of everything during the weekdays, so it wouldn't hurt him to help out on the weekends. Even just one day, either Saturday or Sunday. But since we got married, my husband has never once helped out with the chores. Being the timid person I am, I thought I wanted a man who could take the lead initially. But now, thinking about it, he's just selfish and looks down on others. I was getting sick of these days, but then suddenly, one day. Can we talk? I have something important to tell you. Something important. Is it about work? No. It's about my illness. I've been feeling off lately, and I've been having trouble breathing even while working. So, I went to the doctor and they found a disease. You're kidding, right? I was shocked by my husband's revelation since I always thought of him as someone strong who rarely even caught a cold. My husband having a disease. I never imagined it, nor did he show any signs. However, according to him, the disease is quite advanced, and he needs an organ transplant as soon as possible. We need to look for a donor, so it's not immediate, but the situation seems pretty serious. So, you don't need to be hospitalized? They gave me some medication, so I should be okay for a while. But I do need a donor, so I need you to go to the hospital this weekend for a test. If you're a match, I'll need you to be the donor. When my husband told me that, something deep inside me skipped a beat. Of course, if there was anything I could do for my husband, I wanted to extend all the help I could. That's what marriage should be about, after all. However, if possible, I didn't want to donate an organ. One reason was that my husband hadn't been treating me with the respect and care a wife deserves. To him, I seemed like just a tool to be used at his convenience. The only time I felt cherished as his wife was during the first month of our marriage. Additionally, I was scared of undergoing surgery. Of course, facing someone in need of a donor, saying I'm scared of surgery shouldn't really be an excuse. Being mentally fragile, I understood what needed to be done but couldn't bring myself to make that decision. So, what was the outcome? It was a match. We can schedule the surgery for a day that works for you. I took a day off work the next day to go for the testing at the hospital. I hadn't told my husband, but the result was a match. I could save my husband's life, that was the outcome. No matter how much my husband might not cherish me, he was still my partner whom I had married. Of course, the surgery scared me, but I resolved to donate my organ for my husband. However, that day. Should we take the car today, or go to your place? Let's go to a hotel. On my way back from the hospital, I saw my husband walking hand in hand with a young woman. Who in the world was she? She was dressed in revealing clothes, and I think she was more than 10 years younger than my husband. She didn't look like someone from his work. Could it be an affair? Indeed, my husband often came home late at night, but I thought it was just because he was out drinking with colleagues. However, was he actually spending those nights enjoying himself with a mistress? There he was, right in front of my eyes, walking hand in hand with a younger woman. This was unbelievable and a complete betrayal to me. My head went blank, and I was in total panic, but my husband left without even noticing my state. I took a deep breath, somehow managed to calm myself down, and went home. That evening when my husband came back, I confronted him with a glare. I saw you walking with a young woman. What's that all about? Oh, you saw that? Yes, I did. Betraying me like this is the lowest. How could you do something so awful? What do you think you are? Do you think you're such a great woman? Marriage is supposed to be supported by the man, and the moment a woman stops being a woman, it falls apart. Men always want young and attractive women. What is he talking about? There's no way marriage can fall apart for such selfish reasons. It seems like my husband is trying to justify his cheating. I will never forgive him. He's been using me all this time, probably because he no longer sees me as his wife. My suspicions were correct. To him, I'm nothing significant. Just a convenient existence who pays the living expenses and takes care of the house and meals. How dare he look down on people? You're not going to do something like this and not be accountable for it, are you? Yeah, maybe. A menopausal hag like you isn't needed. Should I divorce you? Excuse me? I've been thinking about it for a while. You can't get pregnant, and as a woman, you're finished. You look like an old lady, and you're utterly unattractive, so I've wanted to leave you. That's why I cheated and was drawn to a younger woman. It's obvious, right? This is ridiculous. What does he think marriage is? I never thought he looked down on me to this extent. But, having it said so plainly, I actually felt relieved. He was sick, and he was my partner whom I had married. I thought I might have some mixed feelings, but now I've completely let go. He wants a divorce? then I'll gladly grant it. But let this be clear. I will never forgive what he has done. If you want a divorce, I'll give it to you. But don't bother me anymore. You better not come back begging for a remarriage. I'm cutting all ties with you. Understood. I said that and had him sign the divorce papers. The divorce was finalized quickly, and since the apartment lease was in my ex-husband's name, I left, and our life together ended. Then, I started preparing for alimony claims and contacted him a month later. I didn't want to talk to him directly, so I had the lawyer who helped me with the alimony claims contact him, but that evening, my ex-husband called me multiple times. I didn't want to talk to such a person or hear his voice, but thinking I should spill all my feelings, I decided to pick up the phone. Hey. What do you mean you were the organ donor? That was the first thing my ex-husband said. I hadn't told him at the time of our divorce, but the day I found out about his affair was the day I found out I could donate an organ to him. Looking back, if I hadn't known about the affair at that time, I would have unknowingly donated an organ to a betrayer. I thought to myself that God must be watching over me, and I decided then there was no way I'd donate an organ to him. Of course, not telling him anything was an option, but this was my form of revenge. While you were out enjoying yourself with a younger woman, I was worried sick about you and went through the organ donation tests. It turns out I'm a match, but I have no intention of helping a betrayer. Don't say that! If you don't donate, I'll have to start looking all over again. Please! Then tell me, what's in it for me? I see no benefit in donating an organ. It might sound heartless, but I wasn't willing to sacrifice my body to help my ex-husband, not even if there were benefits. Even if there had been some advantage, I couldn't bring myself to extend a hand to my ex-husband. The emotional wounds my ex-husband inflicted were deep, and I wanted him to understand that. I thought I was supposed to donate an organ because I was your wife. But who betrayed whom? Sure, but that's a different story. Just your cooperation could save a precious life. Life is equal, I believe that. There's no difference in the weight of lives, and everyone has the same value. But I couldn't see this monster, this mass of desires, as a person. Even if no donor was found in the end, that's just how it would be. It would only be what he had coming for what he's done all this time. That's all I could think of. I don't feel sorry for him if his illness gets worse, he can deal with it himself. If you get better and are let loose, there will just be more women who suffer like I did. Maybe it's better if you never get cured. What kind of thing is that to say to a sick person? You didn't give a toss about me, so why should I care about you as a sick person? Don't you see the contradiction in what you're saying? You're the one talking nonsense. What do you think human life is? I have more morals than you. But even denying that, I don't want to help you. Besides, I'm a stranger to you now. When my ex-husband realized I had no intention of donating, he seemed to slump, starting to make groaning sounds. How pitiful. I didn't feel a bit of sympathy for him and just wanted to end the call quickly. Is that all? Oh, and I think the lawyer has contacted you about the alimony. Make sure to transfer it properly. That's crazy, that much money? It's not crazy at all. You were the one who said you wanted to save up, so you wanted me to pay all the living expenses. But then it turns out you were just squandering money on your mistress. You think that's okay? This was revealed during the divorce, but the savings I thought we would divide, which my ex-husband claimed he had, were almost non-existent. Since I paid all the living expenses, I had the right to half of the savings. However, he had none because he had spent it all on his escapades. It was clear he had been betraying me from the start of our marriage. I will make sure to get the money I deserve. I don't have any money. Plus, I have a lot of expenses coming up. Right, moving out, paying me, and your medical bills. I wonder how you'll manage all that. If you understand, then why did you make such a claim? Because that's how you take responsibility as an adult in society. After more than a decade in the workforce, don't you know such basic common sense? I'm so appalled I'm at a loss for words. It's common sense. Besides, if you don't pay, I'll have my lawyer take it to court. If you're prepared for that, go ahead. My ex-husband must know he's 100% in the wrong, but he's probably hoping to somehow make me reconsider, knowing he'll be in real trouble if things continue as they are. No sign of remorse. If there was even a hint of regret, there might have been room for mercy, but it seems like people who betray others will always continue to do so. Wait a minute. That's just not right. If you do that, you'll regret it later. You'll definitely have days of regret. Absolutely. So what? No matter how you try to persuade me, my decision won't change. But I was gradually getting more irritated by my ex-husband's attitude. Sure, he must be shocked that I was the organ donor, and deep down, he's regretting his choices. But if he's regretting it, why isn't apologizing an option? A sincere apology. Before making excuses and spouting nonsense, shouldn't that be the first thing to do? Without an apology, all he said to me was, "You'll regret this." Does he think threatening me will make me donate an organ? With such a character, it's no wonder no one will ever come forward to help him. See, it's because you only think of yourself that nobody wants to help you. You don't think you've done anything wrong, do you? What? If you were a bit more reflective on what you've done, you could at least apologize, right? I'm asking if you're sorry for what you did to me. Of course, I'm sorry. So, about the organ donation. You apologize regardless of the organ donation, right? Then you apologize. You are asking me to donate my organs? You're kidding, right? Stop joking. No matter what I said, it was hopeless. Maybe I was foolish to have even a shred of expectation. Expecting such a person to reflect on their actions is futile. That's why I chose not to give him another chance, but to divorce him and make him pay alimony. I've had enough. Engaging with him any further is a waste of time, and I decided to put an end to it. I don't know what you'll do from here on, but I will never help you. Just keep that in mind. No matter the situation, my stance won't change. And about the alimony, if you can't pay, I'll have the lawyer take it to court. I ended the call with just that. From then on, I left all communications to the lawyer, so I didn't say anything directly to him, but he was definitely living a miserable life. Actually, he quit his job because of a stress-related illness. Stress caused it? Yes. He was terrified of not finding someone to donate an organ. Of course, it doesn't seem like his life is in immediate danger, but the excessive stress did him in. I was surprised that such a shameless character could feel stress. If he could feel stress, he should have been more considerate of my feelings. Then, he might understand how it feels to be cheated on or used like a tool, and how much stress that can cause. Well, even if he understood, I doubt it would have changed anything. But you got the alimony paid, right? How did he manage that? It was quite a sum. Oh, that? He must have borrowed it. Borrowed? Yes. It seems he borrowed a significant amount from consumer finance and used that to pay. But now, he can't repay it and has been contacting everyone he knows for help. He even tried to contact me, but I ignored him. You ignored him? After all he did to you, my dear friend, using and betraying you like that. He deserves it. Not only is he not getting help from his friends, but now he's also fighting against loneliness on top of his illness. Well, this situation is entirely his own doing, and I think it's a hard lesson learned. If he can't even understand how despicable his actions were and how much trouble he caused me, then as a person, he's finished. Well, he's finished, and that's probably why no one is reaching out to help him. But maybe his affair partner would stand by him? Like a sole source of comfort? No, they've already split up. Really? Yeah, you haven't heard? That person was only after his money, it seems. Moved on to another man already. I was honestly surprised that even his affair partner had left him. But, thinking about it, it makes sense. My ex-husband spent most of his earnings on his affair partner. That means he was spending tens of thousands of dollars a month on her. For an affair partner, someone spending that much money on them every month is nothing but an easy mark. But once she realized she couldn't squeeze any more out of him, she disappeared. Seeing him treated this way made me wonder if he'd end up distrusting people, but if he did, in the end, it's all his fault. Well, since he used and deceived me for so long, if he gets deceived and used himself, he can hardly complain. He's done the same thing. That's right. Well, we don't know what will happen to him from here, but it's none of our business anyway. You're right, thinking any more about my ex-husband is pointless. I've completely forgotten about him and am enjoying my second life. As an office worker, my salary is still low, and it's not exactly a fulfilling job. But being needed and appreciated by my coworkers makes me feel that it's good to be doing this job. I still think about the organ donation situation from time to time. Even considering everything my ex-husband did, there will always be people who criticize my decision to refuse organ donation. Morally, it might be argued that my choice was wrong. But everything is the result of the choices he made, and I have no regrets about mine. Whatever suffering he endures from here on out is none of my concern. Let him continue to suffer for his sins, that's how I see it as his atonement. Marriage isn't just about paperwork. It's a declaration of intent to support and help each other no matter what. But someone who easily betrays that commitment will eventually be betrayed themselves, and what they've done will surely come back to them. To avoid becoming like my ex-husband, I plan to continue valuing the people and environment around me and live my life accordingly. My name is Natalie Irwin. I'm a 33-year-old stay-at-home mom. I work in a specialized IT field. My husband, Henry, who is 2 years my senior, is a hard-working salaryman at a mid-sized company. We are in our 5th year of marriage, and we have a 4-year-old daughter named Anna. My daughter loves playing with dolls, and Henry is always so sweet and doting on her. He's always ready to buy her toys and clothes, and I spend my days gently dissuading him with a laugh. I don't want to cut corners with my work or house chores, always thinking about how to manage my tasks more efficiently each day. Henry never forgets to express his gratitude to me. "Natalie, thank you for everything." And when he has some free time, he always helps me out. We've come this far, hand in hand, in housework and parenting. Henry has been a good husband and a good father, by all accounts. We're a happy family, to anyone looking in. But, on the surface only. I know my husband's secret. He's having an affair. In other words, he has a mistress. I found out by accident. When I went to pick up our daughter from kindergarten, I saw him walking with a woman I didn't recognize. At first, I was shocked and thought maybe she was a colleague from his office. But after secretly following them, I saw them enter a hotel meant for such encounters, and my hopeful assumptions were dashed. I was stunned that day, even arriving late to pick up my daughter. I apologized to my slightly upset daughter and went home. My memories of how I interacted with Henry when he returned home that day are vague. Unaware that I had seen him, Henry acted as usual. I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding. But a calm part of my mind denied that possibility. Since then, I've started to investigate around my husband a bit. Maybe I wanted to find evidence to refute what I had seen. However, the more I found, the more the evidence reinforced the fact that Henry was having an affair. I gave in and acknowledged it. Henry is having an affair. Once I accepted that, he suddenly seemed like a repulsive creature to me. Divorce crossed my mind. I at least wanted a smooth divorce. But I wondered if a friendly separation was even possible under these circumstances. Custody, alimony, child support, the issues were numerous. But I had no intention of forgiving my husband anymore. I made an effort to act normally, so Henry wouldn't suspect anything. Every time Henry touched our daughter, I screamed inside my head, "Don't touch her with those dirty hands that have touched another woman." So, very naturally and subtly, I started to keep my daughter away from Henry. Fortunately, he didn't notice. Is this for my daughter's sake? No, it's for me. Because I can't stand it. While questioning myself, I quietly continued to gather evidence of his affair, even using a detective agency. Then one day, I found out Henry and his mistress were touring various wedding venues for their dates. Henry was managing to carve out time for both his family and his mistress. Of course, he was lying to me when he met with his mistress, but I pretended not to notice. I was astounded that he couldn't direct his passion towards something else. I decided to follow Henry and his mistress on their date. Pretending to see off Henry, who said he was going to work on his day off, I left the house too. I had left our daughter with my parents. Thinking my usual car would be too obvious, I rented a car for the day. After confirming the mistress getting into Henry's car, I followed them at a safe distance. I might say, my tailing skills weren't too shabby. Henry's car slid into the parking lot of a wedding venue. It seemed there was a by-appointment viewing event going on. I parked my car in a nearby lot and waited for the two to come out of the wedding venue. And then, the moment finally arrived. As they came out of the wedding venue, all smiles, I made my move.
Huh? Henry? What are you doing here? Eh?
Feigning surprise, I called out to him, and he stood there agape, recognizing me, someone who shouldn't be here. His face turned pale and drained of blood in the next moment.
Eh? Natalie? What are you doing here? I thought you were going to be at home all day today. Oh, I suddenly had some free time, so I was having tea with a friend nearby. Right now, my friend is on a call, so I'm waiting.
While spinning this lie, I stared at the woman hidden behind my husband. I couldn't see her face, but it seemed she was just as surprised by my sudden appearance as Henry was.
And who let this lady be? And a wedding venue, what was the purpose? Well, this is...
My husband stammered. I let out a sigh and looked down sadly. Just kidding. I'm sorry. I've been causing you pain, haven't I? I already know that you have another woman you love besides me. My husband's eyes widened in shock. I purposely moistened my eyes. I'm sorry that because of me, you couldn't vow your eternal love.
Natalie! I didn't mean...
It's okay. Don't say anything more. Please take this, I said, pulling out a signed divorce paper and a gift envelope from my pocket. I placed them in Henry's hand and smiled at him, making sure to let a single tear fall. Even if we part, I'm rooting for you. Thank you for everything. Be happy. Henry looked stunned, gazing at my face. I quickly pulled away and, without heeding Henry's call to stop, I hurried off. Then, I got into the car and made my way home. By then, my tears had already retreated. It was all an act. Henry was probably planning to make some excuse. Something like, this is a misunderstanding, or, she and I aren't in that kind of relationship. But I didn't listen to any of it. Instead, I played the part of a noble woman who wishes happiness for the person she loves. Was my acting a bit too much? But, perhaps going overboard was just right. I felt like I had become an actress, but since I planned to continue deceiving my husband and exacting my revenge thoroughly, it wasn't a mistake. I returned the rental car and caught a taxi home. Upon arriving, I first checked the luggage I had packed earlier. I loaded my and my daughter's belongings into the car and then waited for Henry to come home. Checking my phone, I found dozens of calls and messages from Henry. The phone kept ringing while I waited, but I ignored it completely. Soon, I heard the hurried sound of someone entering through the front door.
Natalie! Are you here?
I'm here. Welcome home.
I'm home.
Henry, opening the door to the living room with a bang, was out of breath as he looked at me. I calmly replied and looked back at him. A moment of silence. Henry was the first to break it.
Natalie, about what happened earlier.
Did you submit the divorce papers? As I ignored Henry's attempt to speak and asked, he shook his head vigorously. Then, he pulled out the folded divorce papers and the envelope from his pocket and thrust them at me.
I wouldn't submit them, of course. Please, just listen to me. It's not what it looks like.
There's no need to talk. I understand it all. It's okay. I'll step back gracefully. As I said this sorrowfully and looked down, Henry became even more flustered.
No, you've got it wrong. It's a misunderstanding. She's just an acquaintance.
Just someone you know, and you go to a wedding venue with her?
Well, that is, actually, her boyfriend suddenly couldn't make it to the viewing, but she still wanted to get a feel for the atmosphere, so she asked me to substitute.
That must have been an excuse Henry desperately thought up on the way home. I smiled slightly, making sure Henry couldn't see. How absurd. Then you should have just said so in the morning before you left. Saying you had to work on a holiday. You lied because you had something to hide, didn't you?
That's... I thought you would worry.
Being lied to is far more worrying, don't you think? You did something that would obviously make anyone think you wanted to see her so badly. Or was it intentional? Did you lie on purpose to test me? Henry fell silent. If you're going to lie, you should have prepared your story better, like me. I sighed softly. There's no need for excuses. As I said earlier, I had already sensed that your heart belonged to another woman. It must be my fault. Because I couldn't keep your heart, you ended up committing such a despicable act as infidelity.
No, that's not it. It's not Natalie's fault. It's my fault. I was weak as a husband and as a father.
I watched Henry tear up with a feeling of disgust. Truly shameless. If he had any awareness as a husband or a father, he wouldn't resort to infidelity. This man doesn't deserve to cry. Please, let's get a divorce. I still love you. You're still important to me. Of course, that was a lie. I want the person I love to be happy, even if it's not with me by their side. Natalie. Henry's voice cracked with emotion. I showed a single tear, just like I did earlier. Controlling tears isn't so hard after all. I'm an actress right now.
Let's say goodbye with a smile, okay? Please, sign this and be happy with her.
Natalie. Natalie. I'm sorry, thank you. Henry, with tears streaming down his face, shakily signed the divorce papers. I doubt this was an act from Henry, but that just made me question his nerve even more. To play the tragedy after causing all this with his infidelity. Even though I was the one who led him to it, watching my husband silently sign the divorce papers made me wonder why I ever married such a man, leaving me with a hollow feeling. He didn't even mention our daughter once throughout this whole ordeal. I'm sorry for everything turning out this way, for forcing Natalie into making such a painful decision. He's aware of what he's done, yet why did he have an affair? Nothing he says now could ever reach me. It's okay. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters to me. I parroted lines like I was reading from a script, saying things I didn't mean. I took the completed divorce papers from him and stated matter-of-factly. I'll take custody of Anna. You should build a new and happy family with her. Okay. Also, as a form of closure, I'd like to ask for alimony and child support. Is that okay? Oh, yes. Of course, I'll pay. You'll need it for many things. I too wish for your happiness. Ask for any amount you see fit. Good, I've got his agreement. Even though he agreed too readily, he must be thrilled about being with his mistress. But, the one who's going to need things from now on is him, not me. I smirked to myself. By the way, where's Anna now? My husband finally asked about our daughter. Perhaps wanting to see her one last time. How shameless. Anna is with my parents since this morning. Don't worry. I'll raise her well on my own. And I'll explain everything to her properly.
Okay.
Can I ask you something? Where did I go wrong? You had an affair because you were dissatisfied with me, right? When I asked, my husband's eyes widened in surprise.
That's not it at all. I had no complaints about Natalie. You were perfect. You managed work, house chores, and parenting all so well despite being busy. You were the ideal wife.
Yet, you had an affair. They say it's partly the wife's fault when a husband strays.
It's not your fault. But maybe because you were so perfect. I felt I had to live up to you, and maybe I was stretching myself too thin. It was a bit suffocating. That's why.
So, you sought out another woman as a way to breathe?
Yeah, that's right. It's all my fault.
My husband hung his head low. He would be soon-to-be ex-husband. No matter how beautifully he crafts his excuses, the fact remains unchanged. Henry betrayed me and our daughter. It's truly sickening.
I'll only take the essentials with me. You and she can use this house. What about you and Anna? I'm thinking of going back to my parents' place for a while. After that, I'll find a place of our own.
This too was a lie. In reality, I had already found a new place. And had been moving our things there bit by bit without him noticing. The stuff packed in the car was just the last of it. While I do plan to go to my parents first, I intend to move into our new home soon after. I've already found a new school for Anna. Unaware of how smoothly everything is progressing, Henry's eyes welled up with gratitude.
If you're okay with that, I'll gratefully accept this house. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll take care of all the rental payments and other paperwork. I'll send you the documents later.
Oh, yeah.
Henry looked momentarily stunned at the mention of rent. After all, this apartment is a rental, so paying rent is a given. It seems he had completely forgotten even such a basic detail. I wonder if he even knows how much the rent is. I've been the one handling all our payments. Sure, Henry contributed to the household expenses, but he likely doesn't know the details. I stood up, smiling brightly. Let's part with a smile, even if it's a lie.
Then, goodbye. Thank you for everything. No matter where I am, I'll be wishing for your happiness.
Before Henry could respond, I left the house, quickly got into the car, and drove away. Henry tried to chase after me, but by then I had already started the car. I drove straight to the city hall and submitted the divorce papers. Then, I headed to my parents' house, where my mom greeted me. Mom, sorry for the sudden visit.
No, it's okay. Did you manage to have a proper talk with Henry?
Yeah.
It's all settled now. Has Anna gone to sleep already?
Yes, just a bit ago.
She was trying to stay awake until you came.
I see. Mom, thank you. I'm really sorry for the suddenness. My mom just hugged me silently. I could feel the facade of lies and acting slowly melting away from my face. But there is no crying. There's no time for tears.
You must be tired. Are you hungry? I'll warm up some food.
Oh, yeah. I might be. Feeling somewhat relieved, I suddenly remembered my hunger. My parents' house welcomed me just the same, unchanged. First, I checked on Anna. She was peacefully asleep in a spacious room. "Why?" Dad whispered, "Welcome back," as I entered. Seeing my daughter's sleeping face, I knew I could endure anything for her. I smiled at my dad and daughter. Perhaps the first genuine smile of the day. That night, I ate my mom's cooking, took a long bath, and fell asleep next to my daughter. The next day, I went to my in-laws' house. Now my former in-laws, but I had to report to them properly. It was part of the plan. The sudden visit without any prior contact surprised them.
Natalie, what's going on? It's not like you to come without letting us know first.
I'm sorry for dropping by suddenly. Just at the entrance is fine. I no longer have the right to step inside your house. My former in-laws looked puzzled. I put on a sorrowful expression again. I'm sorry. The truth is, Henry and I are getting a divorce. It's because I wasn't good enough as a wife. Henry ended up having an affair.
An affair? Henry did.
My former in-laws' eyes widened as they looked at each other. Yes. I'm stepping aside for Henry's happiness. He'll probably remarry the woman he had an affair with soon. So, Henry won't be alone.
Wait a minute. An affair, even though he has a wife like Natalie. Not just Natalie. There's Anna too. How could he?
My former father-in-law held his head, and my former mother-in-law covered her face with both hands. We had always had a somewhat distant relationship. So, I wasn't entirely sure how they would react to this news, but it seems their good nature has made them sympathize with me.
An affair, such an unthinkable act. Oh, did I raise him wrong?
It's not your fault, ma'am. It's my fault for not being a place of comfort for him. To him, I was nothing but a burden. It was natural for him to seek relief outside our home.
That's not true, Natalie. The one who had an affair is at fault, obviously. He's abandoned the family he was supposed to protect. What was he thinking?
My former in-laws comforted me, telling me we are on your side, and if there's anything they can do to help, just say the word. They said Anna is always welcome to visit. I was fortunate to have such kind in-laws. As I drove back to my parents' house, I suddenly remembered and put on my earphones. Fiddling with my smartphone, I checked if the listening device I left in the house was still working. It was something I had secretly installed in Henry's room to gather evidence of his affair. It was quite high-tech, allowing me to listen in real time even from afar. Through the earphones, I could hear a man and a woman arguing fiercely. The man was Henry, and the woman was likely his mistress.
You never told me. Were you deceiving me? Please, calm down, Hillary. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just bad timing. Timing? What timing are you talking about? The fact that you were married and dating me without telling me doesn't change. Making me a part of your affair. You're the worst. Yes, that's true, but I'm sorry. I've already divorced my wife, so there's nothing shameful. I'm single again, and there's nothing stopping us from getting married. Please, marry me. I've dreamed of marrying you and worked hard to get here.
As I suspected, Henry had approached his lover pretending to be single. This was also suggested as a possibility in the report from the detective agency, so it made sense to me. Moreover, Henry seems to have lied about his age. All that just to date a younger woman. I'm done listening to any excuses. It's confirmed, Henry is the worst scumbag. I recalled the mistress's profile in my mind. Her name is Hillary Reed. She's 26 years old. Her father is the president of a company that everyone has heard of at least once, and she works there as an employee. In other words, she's a president's daughter. The nature of Hillary's meeting with Henry is speculative, but it's likely work-related. I turned off the listening device for a moment and called Henry on hands-free.
Hello? Hello?
Henry, it's me, Natalie.
Natalie. What's up? Did you forget something?
Henry's voice tried to maintain calm, but I could hear the undeniable panic beneath it. Given the situation, it was only natural, but I pretended not to notice and continued. Forget something. I guess you could say that. I thought I'd give you a parting gift.
Eh?
You know, Henry, you're planning to remarry your girlfriend, right? Naturally, you'll have a wedding ceremony, won't you? I added in my mind, considering you were attending viewings.
Yeah, that's the plan, but...
About that wedding, if you're interested, I have a friend who works at a venue. It's quite a large place, you know. Celebrities have their weddings there. I don't think you'll get this chance again.
Eh? That's a generous offer, but are you sure?
Yes. It's your new beginning, Henry. I want to celebrate it too. I'll talk to them. I think they'll be quite accommodating.
Natalie, thank you. I'll talk to her right away. Do that. I'll send you a brochure later. It's your big day, after all. It has to be splendid. Yeah, you're right. I'll do my best. For our happiness.
Oh boy, which mouth is saying that? Anyway, this should keep Henry busy trying to please her with this and that. It's almost funny how things are going exactly as I predicted, making me smile. I decided to make another call. Hello. Nice to meet you. My name is Natalie Salinger. Minutes after ending the call, I let out a breath. The appointment with the other party was set. This means my part in this is almost done. Now, just the final touches remain. Suddenly, I longed to see my dear daughter. Time to head home. I turned the steering wheel, hurrying back. About half a year later, I received a call. Hello?
Natalie. Is that you?
It was Henry's voice that came through, letting me know my plan had worked. Henry? What's up? You sound rushed. I suppressed my joy, responding calmly. He announced in a voice tone of extreme confusion.
What am I gonna do? I got fired.
Oh, really? Yep, just as expected.
That's it.
That's it. But we're strangers now, right? It's a bit troubling you're telling me this all of a sudden. I replied as if I was also perplexed, and Henry groaned. I decided to indulge him a bit. But why were you fired all of a sudden?
I don't know. I went to the office in the morning, and suddenly they called me in and said I was fired. I'm so confused. They said there was a terrible complaint from a client, but I have no idea.
I see.
And she's gone too. When I got home, the place was empty, and there was a goodbye note. Seems like she packed up and left.
Henry rambled on. Her? Your new wife?
No, we hadn't submitted the marriage registration yet. We were going to do it after the wedding ceremony at the end of this month. Now I don't know what's what.
I see. But I knew the reason. That client must be Hillary's father's company. In fact, after making that phone call for an appointment, I had met with Hillary herself and her parents. I informed them that I was Henry's ex-wife, that I had known about Henry's affair for some time, and that I had also done some digging into Hillary's background among other things. Hillary's eyes widened, and she apologized to me with tears streaming down her face. They were probably genuine tears. Even though she had been deceived into thinking he was single, the fact remains she was involved in an affair. Her parents had been told she was considering marriage and starting to live with her boyfriend Henry, but they hadn't met him personally yet. Moreover, it seems Hillary hadn't told them that she was the daughter of a company president. I decided to involve the three of them in my plan. We conspired to teach Henry a lesson. From there, the former in-laws and Hillary's family's stellar performance shone. Pretending to know nothing, they went through the motions of meeting both families and preparing for the wedding, and the plan progressed smoothly. And today, it bore fruit. Hillary's father reported to Henry's company that his daughter had been deceived by one of their employees. Pretending to be furious, he threatened to end business dealings with Henry's company. The company panicked and fired Henry. It's possible that the evidence of infidelity I had sent to his company also played a role. From looking at Henry's payslips, I knew the company was already struggling, so there might have been an element of downsizing involved. Whether he would actually be fired was a gamble, but I was confident it would work out. I mouthed serves you right to Henry's rants on the phone.
What should I do, Natalie? What can I do?
That's up to you, Henry.
But, what do you mean up to me?
Well, if she left, that means she intends to break up with you, right? First, you'll have to cancel the wedding and pay the cancellation fee.
The cancellation fee!
Of course. You can't have a wedding by yourself.
I went all out on the options. It's going to be a huge amount. Natalie, can you ask your contact at the venue to give us a discount?
That's impossible. I only asked them to prioritize you too.
I can't afford the cancellation fee now that I'm fired. Damn it. This is like fraud. She should pay too, it's only fair.
Speaking of which, you still haven't paid this month's alimony and child support. Make sure you don't delay that, okay?
Ah. Right. That too. Sorry, Natalie, can you wait a bit for the alimony and child support? I'm almost out of savings with the rent payment. I'm really in a bad spot. I don't care. It's none of my business. If you're even a day late, I won't forgive you. You reap what you sow for having an affair. Suffer all you deserve.
I rejected Henry's requests, venting my frustrations as I did. Henry gasped for breath. I hung up the phone and let out a long sigh. Then, remembering I needed to contact the former in-laws and Hillary, I picked up my smartphone again. Afterwards, Henry managed to pay the cancellation fee for the venue using the little savings he had left, the money Hillary left behind, and by taking out loans. It seems there was a discussion between him and Hillary, but in the end, they decided to part ways. As for me, I ended up receiving alimony from Hillary as well. Despite not knowing, being involved in an affair is still an affair, and Hillary insisted on settling it as a matter of principle. Henry was cut off by the former in-laws and, to pay off the alimony, child support, and his debts, he's been working tirelessly day and night. My daughter and I moved into the new home we had prepared. Life is still ahead of us. Together with my daughter, we'll make it through. My mistress is pregnant, so please divorce me. Owen pleaded over the phone. I understood his feelings all too well. But was there really a need to throw my belongings into the yard?
I get where you're coming from, but shouldn't we talk things over before getting a divorce and finding a lawyer? Besides, we need to sign the divorce papers.
It's all ready, he said. Sure enough, when I checked, I found the divorce papers and the lawyer's contact. He seemed serious. Holding the divorce papers, I smirked, thinking to myself, all right, just as planned. I'll contact the lawyer. Thank you, he said, sounding relieved. After hanging up, I arranged for a company to move my belongings. Now, I need to contact Mila, I thought, intending to report to her for all her support. At that moment, I had mixed feelings about everything going according to plan. My name is Camila Smith, a 27-year-old working woman. I've always admired my hardworking mother and wanted to be like her in the future. Owen, my husband, has been supportive of this dream. I love seeing you work towards your goals, Owen would say, complimenting me. Our relationship started back in high school. He approached me while I was studying in the library. That was the beginning. You're always studying, aren't you? Would you mind teaching me? Sure, I don't mind. As we studied together, we became aware of each other and eventually started dating after Owen confessed. It was true I had never been interested in romance before and was thrilled to have my first boyfriend. Camila, you're grinning like an idiot. Is that obvious on my face? Because of this, I was often teased by my best friend, Mila. Mila looks exotic and her appearance made her an outsider among others. Your eyes are so beautiful. I'd love to be friends with you. I was drawn to her stunning green eyes and approached her, becoming friends. There were times when I felt embarrassed to stand next to Mila, who grew into a beautiful woman, but Owen assured me, Camila, you're beautiful too. I prefer you, allowing our friendship to remain strong. So far, I've lived a trouble-free life with my in-laws and am grateful for my husband and friend. Owen, please put your laundry in the washing machine. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Owen is perfect as a boyfriend, but as a husband, there are some things left to be desired. It's his sloppiness. Clothes left where they were taken off, dishes left out after eating, and his smartphone just left lying around anywhere. When we were living together, I felt a maternal instinct towards him and wanted to do everything for him. However, that feeling turned into dissatisfaction after we got married.
We're both tired from work. At least you, who get home earlier, could do the bare minimum.
Owen and I work at the same company, just in different departments. I'm in sales, dealing with international clients. And Owen works in an administrative role. Sometimes, I have to adjust my schedule to meet with clients, which means I get home late. Because of this, Owen often gets home earlier than I do. I get it, but Owen always says, laughing it off. I've always let it slide because I have a soft spot for him. But when I think about the future, especially if we have kids, it seems necessary to address this sooner rather than later. Hey, Owen, I don't want to say this, but when we have kids, do you think we can show them how you are now? When I said that, Owen sincerely apologized. You're right, sorry. However, his body remained on the sofa, unmoving.
If you understand, could you get moving?
I'll do it later, he said, his gaze still fixed on his smartphone. I sighed at him and ended up cleaning up myself. This is why he never learns, because I always end up taking the first step. Maybe we're just alike in that regard.
Well, I get how you feel, Camila. In the end, it's faster if you do it yourself.
Exactly.
Plus, at my parents' house, everyone did their own thing and it was always clean, so I guess I just noticed these things.
Mila laughed in agreement. True. It was always clean whenever I went there. Mila works at the same company as us, in the same department as me. So, I often end up venting to her during our breaks.
Well, Owen's family is more laid back, isn't it?
Mila knows both our families well. My house was always about my career-focused mom, supported by my stay-at-home dad. However, my mom always made sure to show us love and didn't just leave the housework to my dad, she actively helped out. Growing up in that environment, I can't help but be bothered by Owen's behavior. On the other hand, Owen's parents are more relaxed, and housework is done by whoever notices it needs to be done.
Well, Owen is definitely taking advantage of Camila's good nature, and she's letting him. If you want to keep your marriage healthy, you really need to talk it out.
Mila advised. I nodded at her words. It's fine now, but if something were to happen to me, Owen would be helpless on his own. Plus, because of my department, I sometimes have to travel abroad. Coming back from a trip to find the house a mess and having to clean it up without a break is becoming the norm.
We'll definitely have a proper talk for both our sakes,
I said. Mila smiled, showing her support. Since then, I've been nagging Owen more than before, trying to get him to change even a little. Maybe I was annoying him because he started spending less time at home. I'm home.
Welcome back. You're quite late, aren't you?
That day, Owen came home when it was almost the next day. Waiting for his return and preparing dinner, I couldn't help but speak sarcastically. He made a displeased face. Can't help it.
I have social obligations too. Even so, a quick message wouldn't have hurt.
Lately, Camila, you've become really nagging.
You used to laugh it off.
I couldn't help but get annoyed at Owen's grumbling. Sure, I had been cleaning up after him despite complaints. But it wasn't like I was okay with it.
I've mentioned this before, right? Until now, I was just taking the initiative.
Mila probably wouldn't nag me like this. Too bad, but she agrees with me. In fact, I think she'd be even stricter.
If you prefer Mila so much, why don't you switch to her?
I retorted, feeling irritated at Owen's words. Finally realizing I was angry, Owen looked at me with a start.
Sorry, I was just irritated from work. I said something unpleasant. The one I love is only you, Camila.
Owen said with his usual smile. Reflecting on my immaturity, I took a deep breath to calm myself.
I was the one who spoke harshly. I'm sorry.
Owen laughed, saying, both are to blame. That smile was indeed what I was drawn to, but at that moment, it felt shallow.
Why can't married life go smoothly?
The next day, eating lunch alone, I sighed. Today, Mila had a meeting with an overseas client, so our brakes didn't align.
Are things not going well with Owen?
Then, a woman spoke to me in a somewhat mocking tone. Isla. I sighed inwardly at her appearance. She's Isla Brown. Although not anymore, she used to be under my supervision.
That's none of your business.
Wow, you're scary. That's why your marriage is in trouble, Isla chuckled. Our compatibility was frankly bad. I believe in working hard regardless of gender and advancing in my career. However, she believes marrying into wealth and being a housewife is the key to happiness.
That's a problem between us as a couple. Before you complain about my private life, maybe you should focus on your work. Nowadays, not being able to use a computer properly is a hindrance.
At my words, her face turned sour. Actually, she first joined the company as my department member. However, despite claiming during the interview that she had studied abroad and was fluent in French, her French seemed not really well, and she couldn't even start a computer without asking someone. As a result, she quickly became a liability in our department and was transferred elsewhere. You're only at ease for now, Isla said as she left. Watching her go, I sighed, feeling like I had attracted the attention of a troublesome person.
Camila! There's a bit of a situation.
What's going on, Mila? It happened right after my talk with Isla. Mila came rushing over, pulling my arm.
Camila, calm down and listen. There's a rumor going around the company,
she said, and I was about to hear some shocking news. But upon hearing it, I thought to myself, I figured as much. Perhaps I had sensed something was off.
Did you suspect something?
Maybe. It's more of a that figures than a surprise, I replied, and Mila seemed to ponder something. Then, hey, Camila. Do you still love Owen? She asked, and I fell silent. To be honest, the moment I heard that rumor, any love I had for him vanished. The content of the rumor was appalling.
To be honest, continuing our marriage like this is impossible. In that case, I have a proposal for you. Are you interested?
Without a moment's hesitation, I nodded. Soon after, I was set to go on a business trip overseas.
This business trip might be a bit longer than usual. Will you be okay by yourself?
I'll be fine.
If anything happens, I'll rely on my parents.
Although a bit worried, I left Owen to take care of the house and set off abroad.
Don't worry, I'll handle everything.
Mila reassured me with confident words just before my departure. She kept in touch while I was abroad, updating me on the situation back home. Meanwhile, I received no communication from Owen. Even when I reached out, he didn't respond.
I need to focus on my job right now.
Owen's actions were frustrating, but I decided to concentrate on my work. A week later, I finished my work and returned home.
Owen? I'm at the airport right now, heading home.
I messaged him, but as usual, there was no reply. I gave up on contacting him and, with my luggage, headed home.
What is this?
My belongings were left out in the yard to greet me. Shocked, I tried to enter the house, but the key didn't fit. Therefore, I called Owen.
Hello? What's the meaning of this?
After persistent calling, Owen finally answered. Tentatively, I asked him in a cold voice.
Camila, I want a divorce. What? My mistress is pregnant, so please let's get a divorce.
Owen begged over the phone. I understood his feelings all too well. But was there really a need to throw my belongings into the yard?
I understand where you're coming from. But shouldn't we talk things over before getting a divorce and finding a lawyer? Besides, we need to sign the divorce papers. It's all prepared.
Sure enough, when I checked, I found the divorce papers with a lawyer's contact. He seemed serious. Holding the divorce papers, I smirked, thinking, all right, just as planned.
I'll fill these out and contact this lawyer.
Thank you, he said, sounding relieved. After hanging up, I arranged for a company to move my belongings.
Now, I need to contact Mila,
I thought, intending to inform her of the assistance she had provided. At that moment, I had mixed feelings about everything going according to plan. Not long after, we proceeded with the divorce.
Camila, I heard the news. You got a divorce.
Isla smirked and approached me as soon as I arrived at work. I had only told our parents and Mila about my divorce from Owen. Thus, Isla, being an outsider, shouldn't have known.
Wow, you're quite the informant. I haven't told anyone else about the divorce. You seem to know a lot. Well, that's because...
Of course, since you're Owen's mistress, I said, and she looked surprised with an A. However, Isla quickly returned to a smug expression.
Oh, you knew? You're not denying it.
Well, if it's found out, no need to hide it, Isla said, throwing me a triumphant smile. It's shocking she would openly admit to an affair at work. What did Owen see in her?
Owen was my mentor. He always taught me kindly, looked so cool, and besides, he's going to be the next CEO.
At those words, I stopped dead in my tracks. Next CEO? Owen? Unaware of my confusion, Isla continued to brag about how much Owen loved her and how the old lady is past his prime. After her lengthy boast, she happily walked away.
She's as brazen as ever.
It seems she had been watching the situation unfold. Mila approached, laughing in disbelief.
Really? And to think she believes Owen is going to be the next CEO.
I'm shocked. Wonder where she got such a misunderstanding, Mila said, laughing, and I couldn't help but laugh along with her.
From the look of it, it's easy to guess why she went after Owen.
It seems she fell for the supposed position of Owen being the next CEO. Plus, she probably thought of harassing me, who had reprimanded her as a newcomer, as a bonus.
I never thought she'd be that foolish.
Mila looked around, laughing. The people around us were giving me sympathetic looks. We laughed together, anticipating the backlash Isla and Owen would face. A few hours later.
Camila!
As soon as it was break time, Owen rushed into my department. His face showing panic.
Everyone's telling me, how could you betray such a good person? Even my parents said they're ashamed to have me as their son.
That's enough. Mila intervened as Owen rambled on. If we talk about it here, Camila will get dragged into baseless rumors. I've booked a meeting room, let's discuss it there. And let's call her too, Mila said, smiling, and Owen nodded, pale-faced. Then we called Isla to join us in the meeting room Mila had arranged.
So, Owen, what do you want to say?
At Mila's prompt, Owen started to explain. Apparently, rumors were swirling in the department that Owen and Isla had an affair and I was deliberately kicked out of the house because of it. Because of that, Owen's life had become a bed of thorns.
And what do you expect me to do about it? After all, you did betray me, didn't you?
That's true. Just so you know, I didn't spread the rumors. She boldly declared her affair in front of other employees, I said, and Owen suddenly looked at Isla. However, Isla was nonchalantly twirling her hair, seemingly uninterested.
It doesn't matter if rumors spread. Once you become the CEO, no one will dare to complain,
she said, making Owen's eyes widen. We smirked in response.
What? Me, the CEO? What are you talking about?
This time, Isla froze. Then, looking confused, she turned to Owen.
What? Aren't you the son of the CEO?
No.
The CEO is Camila's mother. What?
Isla exclaimed in shock. Indeed, my mother, who had always been a career-driven woman, eventually started her own company. Now, she's the female CEO of the company we work for, battling it out every day.
But, you said you were the son of the CEO. I might have said something like that. In the sense of being a son-in-law to Camila's family.
It seems Owen's carelessness extended to his conversations as well. By not explaining things properly and speaking carelessly, he caused Isla's misunderstanding.
By the way, are you really pregnant?
Mila's words made Isla flinch. Unaware of her reaction, Owen, puzzled, looked on as I pulled out a photo.
But, you're drinking, right?
The photo showed Isla drinking beer at what looked like a bar. with a man who wasn't Owen also in the frame, indicating she had relations with others as well.
If you look at the date, this was just 3 days ago.
3 days prior, Isla's pregnancy should have already been known.
It's a lie, right? To steal Owen from me.
Isla. It's a lie, right? You said you were so happy about our child, Owen said, reaching out to touch Isla. Owen said, reaching out to touch Isla, who shrugged off his hand.
Yes, that's right. I couldn't stand the thought of such a woman becoming the next CEO's wife. I thought I'd take her place. What a waste of time.
Isla snapped back, leaving Owen looking hurt. Why are you playing the victim here? Plus, I've recorded our entire conversation, I informed, pulling out a voice recorder. Now, we had all the evidence we needed. Now, let's make sure you take full responsibility. Sorry, Camila. It was just a little game. Owen pleaded to me. I looked at him coldly.
A little game, huh? Because of that, I was thrown out of my home.
I really regret it. I'm truly sorry, you know that, right? Owen begged, offering his usual smile. In response, I also smiled sweetly. I'm tired of being with you, I said, and immediately, Owen froze. You never listened to me, and you've even cheated. I've completely lost patience with you.
But
it's a relief you agreed to the divorce so quickly.
It made it easy for me to kick you both out of the company,
Mila said, smiling. Owen and Isla looked confused, not grasping her words. They both puzzled.
The next CEO won't be Owen, who was once considered a son-in-law, nor me. Mila is slated to take over this company.
Indeed, the real successor was Mila. Her father is from the UK, and she spent her childhood vacations at her father's home there. Her connections formed there, along with the multiple languages she speaks thanks to her study abroad during her student years, have been a boon for our company. Thanks to her, our company's performance has skyrocketed.
Because of her achievements, Mila has been chosen as the next CEO.
I can trust her completely.
That's why people like you don't belong in my company. You better start packing,
Mila told Owen and Isla, who collapsed to their knees. I crouched in front of Owen.
Owen, you need to pack up your stuff at home too. Why? Because that house was a gift from my parents, right?
Indeed, the house we lived in was given to us by my parents as a wedding gift. It's in my name, so technically, Owen is the one who should be leaving.
So, I'm being kicked out of both the house and the company. If you were still useful, we might have kept you, but unfortunately, your performance has been the lowest.
Mila had inquired about Owen's work performance beforehand. Apparently, Owen has been causing problems at work and has become a liability. However, he was assigned as a mentor because he was good at teaching others.
After hearing those terrible rumors, I decided to definitely fire you.
The terrible rumors were about Owen and Isla's affair, which I had heard just before my business trip. It was about Owen and Isla having an affair. The two were openly affectionate in the company, causing rumors. We can't keep employees who engage in misconduct at work. I'll report this to the CEO.
You should use the remaining time to look for another job.
Owen slumped at these words. The reason I went on a business trip at that time was to expose their affair.
I thought you and her, given her ambition to marry Owen in my absence, would definitely make a move.
Indeed, the business trip was due to a client requesting me. But I could have managed it remotely.
But knowing you'd definitely slip up, especially Isla, who wanted to marry Owen, I expected some action.
The two were stunned. They probably didn't realize they were being played.
Are you saying you set me up to cheat?
I didn't encourage the affair. You decided to act. You'll take full responsibility. Owen opened his mouth to say something but then, unable to find the words, just hung his head.
Of course, you'll take responsibility too. I'm not at fault. It's Owen who lied to me.
Isla became defensive, possibly out of desperation, as Mila's gaze turned to her.
Isla, you knew what would happen if you got involved with a married man. But at least I suffered because of you too. Don't think you can just run away from this.
Soon after, they were both fired. Their poor performance and the affair during work hours were the final straw. I'm exhausted.
You did a good job.
After everything that happened, Mila comforted me with laughter.
Thank you so much. If it weren't for you, Mila, I'd be at a total loss right now. Don't mention it. This was my way of giving back.
Mila had no friends before when she just moved into my neighborhood. I was her first friend. Ever since you became my friend, I've decided I'd always help you, no matter what, she said, prompting me to respond with a heartfelt thank you. I truly felt blessed to have such a wonderful friend. After being ousted from the company, Owen went back to his parents' home but was turned away. We had known each other since high school. And I was well acquainted with Owen's parents, who had always treated me kindly. They were overjoyed when we announced our engagement, with his mother exclaiming how she had always wanted a daughter. Despite this, it seems understandable that they couldn't accept a son who had betrayed and divorced me.
I'm truly sorry for what our foolish son has done.
Owen's mother apologized over the phone after hearing about the incident. She assured me they would never welcome Owen back. His parents seemed to have kept their promise. Owen tried to scrape by with part-time jobs, but his careless nature led to frequent mistakes and tardiness, resulting in him being repeatedly let go. Meanwhile, Isla had fallen for someone else and ended up getting into trouble, eventually needing assistance from the police. Because she showed no signs of remorse, even the police were exasperated with Isla. Her parents seemed to have disowned her too, so a harsh reality awaits her after her release from police custody.
It's a fitting result for their actions,
I murmured, learning about their subsequent fates. Later, I received a call from Owen. I truly regret everything. I want to reconcile with you, Camila. Owen pleaded. I decided to ask him something.
Hey, you actually liked Mila, not me, right?
Owen fell silent at my words. I had felt uneasy the day he suggested Mila as an option. If Isla had been his true love, he wouldn't have mentioned Mila, instead saying something like a younger colleague.
You really liked Mila. Even when you approached me during our student days, it was because I was closest to her, right?
Yes. But as we dated, I grew to love you, Camila. I can't believe that, I said dismissively, and Owen attempted to protest, no. But his words no longer reached me. I genuinely loved you, Owen. But now, I have no feelings for you. So, don't ever contact me again, I said, ending the call. To think he was my first love. I sighed and blocked Owen's contact.
Now, it's time to move on,
I resolved, ready to focus anew. Mila is set to face her challenges as the next CEO. In gratitude for her help, I must support her as much as I can. With that in mind, I got back to work.
Camila, the company's performance has improved again thanks to your business trip. It wasn't just my effort.
Since then, Mila has been looking out for me.
So, Camila, are you interested in taking on a challenge at our overseas branch?
She asked, looking at me earnestly. She looked back at me with a serious expression.
I'd like to hear more about that,
I said, thinking that moving abroad might help me finally move on from Owen. And so, I headed to the overseas branch. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as it allowed me to avoid Owen, who had been lying in wait outside the company. Owen, growing frustrated as he waited in vain for me to appear, attracted the suspicion of a security guard, who then called the police. I told him never to show his face in front of me or her again. Mila shared, laughing about how she had scolded him. Following her advice, I consulted with a lawyer and obtained a restraining order. I was also informed that if he tried to contact me again, the police would be notified. Perhaps because of this, Owen never appeared in front of me again.
By the way, I got a call from Isla too.
She was asking to be rehired, Mila shared.
Was anything done about it?
No worries.
Before I could deal with her, your mom dismissed her, saying, "We don't need someone as incompetent and lacking in basic decency as you," Mila explained with a laugh.
My mother is indeed strong. Hearing this, I felt refreshed and was able to concentrate on my work. After some time, Mila was officially recognized as the next CEO and began the handover process. Thanks to my overseas experience, I felt I had grown a lot.
Mila is always so busy,
I thought, planning to have drinks with her to show my appreciation for her hard work. As I waited outside the company for her to show up, a male colleague approached me. I was just thinking about contacting her when it happened.
"Oh, Camila?
Hello." I was approached by a male colleague. He seemed puzzled to see me there, but after I explained, he understood and offered. "If it's okay with you, I can keep you company." Taking him up on his offer, I decided to chat with him to pass the time. Then, finding out we shared the same hobbies, we hit it off completely.
"You two seem to be having a good time,"
Mila teased when she finally arrived, causing us both to blush.
"Would you mind exchanging contact information?"
he asked afterward. Over time, as we kept in touch, we began dating.
"I'm glad. You seemed so down after breaking up with Owen,"
Mila noted, apparently worried about me. Determined to reassure her this time, I decided to be more discerning. Moving forward was the choice I made. I still can't believe my brother-in-law got into a car accident. It just doesn't seem real. Kelly, you must be taking this the hardest, right? I'll be there for you for the rest of your life, so please cheer up. My brother, Tom, passed away 13 days ago. Just as my husband, Andrew, said, it was because of a car accident. Without parents, my brother was like a parent to me. This was known by Andrew and our relatives, so they gathered today, understanding how I felt. Hearing Andrew's kind words, the relatives around us nodded in agreement. Amidst this, I said to my husband, "Andrew, can you say the same after seeing this?" As I said that, I handed him a letter. Andrew looked puzzled, as if he had no idea about the letter. None of the relatives knew what the letter was about either, sharing the same puzzled look as Andrew. When I first saw the letter, I was shaking. However, I was certain that Andrew would shake even more than I did. This letter is from my brother. From Tom? The letter was in a long, brown envelope, neatly folded in thirds, just like my meticulous brother would do. I opened the envelope and slowly checked the contents. "Kelly, what does it say?" Before Andrew could ask, my in-laws showed interest in the letter's contents. "It's about my brother's worries." When I said that, my in-laws tilted their heads in confusion. "Huh? Worries, you say?" I thought Tom had a happy marriage with Kate, and both his family and job were going well. Yeah, he looked really happy last time we met. I can't imagine he had any worries. What do you say, Kate? Yes. My husband never complained about his job, and he always seemed happy and smiling when he was at home. It's hard to believe he would go out of his way to write down his worries in a letter. I've heard that my brother's married life was nothing but happiness. It's sad that, now that he's gone, we have to talk about it in the past tense, but I've never met a man as honest and kind as my brother, and I was envious of Kate for having caught such a man. Of course, they were a couple who seemed to live peaceful days without any fights. It must have never crossed their minds that my brother was harboring worries or that he had left them in a letter. He was never the type of a person to complain to others, but when we got married, we made a promise. No secrets between us, let's talk about anything and everything, even the small things. So, if he had any serious worries, he would have told me. Then my husband, Andrew, spoke solemnly as if agreeing with everyone else. Tom and I worked in the same department at the same company, and I was his boss. Even from my perspective, he didn't seem troubled. He was a good guy loved by everyone, an indispensable asset to the company. He was still so young, with his whole life ahead of him. It's truly sad to have lost such a person. At my husband's words, the relatives murmured in agreement, saying, "It's true, exactly," and the living room was enveloped in a somber atmosphere. But I was different. "What were you saying earlier, Andrew?" I couldn't help but burst out laughing.
What's the matter, Kelly? Laughing at a time like this? What's so funny? It's disrespectful.
My husband scolded me in a flustered manner. Everyone present seemed puzzled by my sudden laughter.
Kelly, are you all right?
My in-laws looked into my face with concern. Kate's lips twitched nervously. I knew it was inappropriate, but what my husband said was just too funny, and I couldn't hold it in. Seeing me continue to laugh, my husband clapped his hands and said, "Oh, I get it. Kelly must be emotionally unstable from losing her brother. Poor thing. She must be forcing herself to laugh just to keep it together." Then, he gently hugged my shoulder and slowly helped me to stand up. "Maybe you should rest a bit, Kelly. Sorry, you must be tired, right? After all, even though they're relatives, everyone here is practically a stranger to you." But as he tried to take me to the bedroom, I stopped laughing abruptly and glared at him. "Andrew?" He looked at me with a puzzled face. "I'm not going to let you kick me out as the troublemaker so easily." "What? What's gotten into Kelly?" My sudden shifts from laughing to anger had my husband and the relatives looking at me with worried eyes. "No, really, you're acting a bit strange. The funeral just ended, you must be exhausted. You should lie down," Andrew said with a forced smile as he grabbed my arm. But as he tried to take me back to the bedroom again, I forcefully shook off his hand.
"Don't touch me. Hey, Kelly. Cut it out. Everyone's worried about you."
Finally, Andrew started to get angry. That's when I unfolded the letter from my brother and said,
"I'm going to share the message my brother left. I'll prove to everyone here that you're a liar." "What did you say?"
Andrew's face changed color. It seemed he sensed something.
"Wait, let me see that,"
he said, trying to snatch the letter from me. But I dodged his hand and began to read the letter in front of the relatives. At first, the relatives were half exasperated, half worried, wondering if I was all right. But soon everyone's face changed to a perplexed look. By the time Kelly reads this letter, I might no longer be in this world. Yes, my brother had anticipated his own death when he left this letter. I remember getting goosebumps the first time I read my brother's letter. It was as if he had predicted his own death, and I was so scared, I couldn't stand it. And the continuation of the letter was even more intense. "You might not believe this, but I am being threatened by your husband. If anything happens to me, please protect Kate." The relatives looked at each other. Suddenly, the harsh word "threatened" was mentioned. And that my husband was the one threatening him, something nobody could have anticipated. Wait a minute. What do you mean by threatened? Andrew, did you do something to Tom? My father-in-law quickly questioned, and my husband, in a flustered manner, vigorously shook his head.
"No way, I would never do something like that. Tom and I had a good relationship both personally and professionally. We were close enough to go out drinking together. Threatening him is absolutely out of the question. That letter is a bunch of lies."
Then, saying "Give that to me, Kelly," he reached out to snatch my brother's letter. But I held it close so he couldn't take it.
"Damn it!"
My husband clicked his tongue and glared at me with resentment. "If you say anything else, I won't agree to it." He pressured me with his eyes like that. As if I care. "I'm going to expose everything here," I muttered to myself and then continued reading the letter. Kelly's husband, using his position as a supervisor, harassed me at work. He is truly a cowardly person. To ensure his wrongdoings wouldn't be discovered by the company, he used Kate and Kelly as leverage, making it impossible for me to argue back. He threatened me, saying if I defied him, your wife and sister wouldn't be safe. "Kelly, please be very careful. If possible, you should divorce him as soon as you can." At this point, my father-in-law interjected. I know Tom wasn't the kind of person to lie, but this is hard to believe. Andrew, you've been getting better evaluations at work since you started working with Tom, right? It seems like you two were also close outside of work, so it's hard to imagine there was any problem between you two. The relatives seemed to share my father-in-law's view, all frowning and looking at me with suspicion. They must think the letter is a fake or just a story I made up. Kelly, do you have any proof that Tom wrote that letter? If you can't prove it was his handwriting, I don't think we can conclude it's his. For all we know, someone could have written it as a prank.
That's right, just like Dad said. It must have been someone with a grudge against me, pretending to be Tom. Why would I harass Tom, who I owe so much to? Come on, Kelly, I understand you're upset about losing your brother-in-law, but reading such nonsense is crazy. This letter was either written by someone trying to frame me, or it's just your delusion. Don't do something that would sadden Tom in heaven.
My husband was emboldened as the relatives began to doubt the content of the letter. He said this as if to correct me, then finally snatched the letter from my hands and stuffed it carelessly into his pocket. All right, let's say the letter was a lie and end this discussion. Let's talk about the good times with Tom. After all, we gathered here today to remember him. But as my husband tried to forcibly change the subject, I said, "Oh, we're not finished yet," and took out my laptop, turning it on. A laptop? Since when did you have that? Well, I rarely use it. I usually only use a computer for work. I try not to bring work home, so it's rare for me to open a laptop in the living room. So, my bringing out the laptop was a surprise to my husband, but in fact, I'm more familiar with computers than he is. And today, I had it charged and on standby for a specific purpose.
Come on, what are you starting now? If you're going to pull out something like that letter, just stop. No one has time to indulge in your fantasies.
Seeing me clicking away at the mouse, my husband couldn't hide his irritation.
It's not a fantasy. I'm going to show everyone that this is written by my brother.
Huh? My husband looked at me incredulously. What appeared on the laptop screen was a video. Take a good look, who do you see? When I pressed the play button, two men in suits appeared on the screen. The location was inside a car. "Oh, Tom," Kate whispered softly, her hand covering her mouth. The men on the screen were my brother and husband. Perhaps she had been holding back until now. Tears began to overflow from her eyes. I regretted it for a moment. Maybe showing this video to her, who had just lost her beloved husband, was too cruel. But it was necessary to reveal the truth. "I'm sorry, Kate. Can you bear with it for just a little while?" I paused the video and clasped my hands together towards Kate. "It's okay. Continue, Kelly." Encouraged by Kate, I played the video again. My brother was driving, and my husband was in the passenger seat. What? Why does this exist? At first, my husband stared blankly at the laptop screen, but as the conversation between him and my brother began to be audible, he visibly paled. The content was just as the letter described. In the video, my husband was pressuring my brother, saying, "If you don't want your wife and sister to be scared." His manner of speaking was domineering, completely different from his usual demeanor. Normally, my husband is quite approachable and seldom raises his voice. Yet, in the video, he was intimidating my brother like a completely different person. My brother looked distressed. "I won't allow you to take my wife and sister as hostages," he protested, yet it was clear he was afraid of harm coming to his loved ones. He seemed to have no choice but to comply with my husband's demands.
Stop this."
Before the video ended, my husband frantically closed the laptop. "It's not true, it's all lies." "Kelly, what is this? Did you create a fake video to frame me?" "It's not fake. You can see for yourself, right? You and Tom were always out on sales visits together, weren't you? This video was just from one of those days. But there's no way Tom and I would have such a conversation. Everyone believes me, right? Sweat formed on my husband's forehead as he looked around at the relatives. But it was too late. Too bad for you. You have no allies here anymore, I said dismissively. Then I asked the relatives, clearly, that was Andrew and Tom in the video, wasn't it? Hesitantly, they all nodded. A letter might be fake, but there's no doubting video evidence. My father-in-law's face was beet red, as if he was about to explode with anger. Yet, he still seemed to want to believe in his son. He asked me calmly, "Kelly, where exactly did you get that video?" "From my brother." "From Tom? Are you saying he recorded it himself?" "Did you receive it directly from Tom while he was still alive?" "No, I didn't receive it directly from him. All I got was the combination to a locker." "A locker?" "Yes. In a locker at the station my brother specified, there was both the letter and the video data. This video was recorded by a surveillance camera my brother installed in his car. It seems he wanted to show me Andrew's true nature and, in case something happened, to have evidence." Looking at my husband, he seemed quite flustered. Unable to make excuses, his face was pale, and his eyes darted around nervously. No wonder. He had been unaware of the surveillance camera, threatening my brother and spewing abuse. And now, knowing my husband's true nature, the relatives were in an uproar. "Andrew, why did you do this? What was your reason for threatening Tom?"
That's terrible. What did Tom ever do to you? Explain yourself properly.
My in-laws and Kate pressed my husband for answers. Especially Kate, who had lost the husband she loved. It was natural for her to be angry at Andrew for threatening Tom. I had no choice but to do this. My husband sighed deeply, as if resigned, and began to talk about my brother. I was surprised when Tom joined the company midway through his career. Despite being my brother-in-law, he became one of my subordinates. So, at first, it was awkward, and I even wished one of us would be transferred. But that feeling quickly vanished. Working with him, my performance at the company improved. We were praised by our boss as a great duo. Tom and I would go out for drinks after work and firmly shook hands, promising to keep up the good work. But in reality, it was mostly thanks to him. Without Tom, I was nothing. Realizing this, he gradually became an obstacle to me. That's why I started to shift my work mistakes onto him and harass him.
That's awful. To think you improved thanks to Tom and then treated him like that.
Kate lunged at my husband. Trembling, my husband continued. I did it knowing the company would find out. I didn't care if my own reputation suffered. That's how much I hated Tom.
The nerve. To think you were on good terms, and yet you did things that made Tom hate you.
Kate spat out angrily. She looked like she was about to slap my husband. Tom never blamed me, he said, and Kate let go of him. Why? After you did such terrible things to him, Tom didn't even complain to his superiors? Far from blaming me, Tom took the responsibility upon himself and covered for me. That hurt my pride even more, and I ended up harassing him even further.
Pride? You really are selfish.
I know. But every time Tom covered for me, I was reminded of my own incompetence and felt miserable. So, I pushed him into a corner until it was almost too late, and the company was about to find out, and then my husband trailed off, and I picked up where he left off. So, my brother finally noticed something was wrong and protested. You used Kate and me as a shield because you were afraid Tom would tell the company the truth, right? I had no choice. If I lost my job, you would be in trouble too, right? I'm appalled. I sighed deeply. Tom had always been kind to those around him and strict with himself since we were kids. And he never blamed anyone else, no matter the situation. Thinking about how he must have blamed himself and struggled with the harassment from my husband, it hurt. Knowing Tom's gentle nature, my husband repeated the harassment. I was seething inside. My in-laws seemed to feel the same way, showing their anger towards my husband.
How could you? After all the help you got from Tom, you repay him with betrayal. I'm so disappointed in you. You're not just unfit to be a boss, but unfit as a person.
My in-laws had believed in the trust and partnership between my husband and Tom, both as work partners and brothers-in-law. Yet, my husband exploited Tom and, when his wrongdoings were about to be exposed, used threats as his last resort. They must have felt betrayed. I really am sorry. It started as just a bit of harassment, but nobody stopped me, and I just couldn't control myself anymore. Saying this, my husband collapsed to his knees. And then deeply bowed to everyone.
Despite our past conflicts, my respect for Tom hasn't changed. I'm remorseful now, please forgive me. I beg of you.
He apologized desperately, bowing repeatedly to each relative. Moved by his actions, Kate and the other relatives' expressions softened slightly, but my anger was far from subsiding. Because I knew there was more my husband was hiding. Hey Andrew, can you look up at me for a moment? Kelly. Thinking I would forgive him, my husband looked at me with pleading eyes. Is there something else you haven't told us? Huh? The cause of Tom's car accident was you, wasn't it? What? My husband froze with his mouth open. He probably thought that apologizing for the harassment would settle everything. But he was sorely mistaken. The real condemnation was just beginning. Kelly, what do you mean by that? Kate's face twisted again. Actually, Tom's car accident was orchestrated by Andrew. He tampered with the car to cause the accident.
What did you say? I thought it was strange that Tom would have an accident. As you know, Kate, Tom's driving was too cautious. It was unthinkable for him to speed and crash.
Indeed, that's true. So, I reviewed the surveillance footage again. And there it was, Andrew crawling on the car floor, tampering with the brakes.
How could you?
Kate was speechless and glared at my husband. My in-laws and the other relatives looked at him with piercing gazes. Why do you think Tom went through the trouble of leaving the letter and video data in a station locker? Indeed, if they were brothers, he could have just handed it directly. Why would Tom use a locker? Andrew had been monitoring me. I had discovered that he had placed surveillance cameras in my room. Earlier, Andrew said he couldn't help himself, but that was a lie. His actions were premeditated. He intended to eliminate Tom from the start. Tom used the station locker to prevent Andrew from finding out. If I had kept it at home, there was a risk Andrew would take it. While I was speaking, my husband remained silent, perhaps anticipating the grim future that awaited him. He soon began to tremble. On the other hand, the relatives' anger had reached its peak. The fact that my husband had pretended to care about me losing my brother and his apologies about not being able to stop himself were all acts. It was only natural for them to be furious.
You've really shown your true colors, Andrew. I'm utterly disappointed in you. We will never forgive you. We're taking you to the police right now.
Surrounded by relatives, my husband backed away.
Kelly, please help me. Anything but the police. I beg you.
Despite him clinging to me with tearful eyes, I snorted and pushed him away.
People like you deserve to face the consequences. But we're married, aren't we?
Don't joke with me.
I'm filing for divorce.
Kelly, don't abandon me. As he pleaded desperately, the icy stares of the relatives bore into him. Subsequently, my husband was arrested by the police. Naturally, he lost his job and was disowned by my in-laws, making his return to society after release a daunting task. My in-laws regretted not noticing the change in my husband, and Kate regretted not seeing the change in her husband. They apologized to me, but I had regrets too. Being his sister, I didn't notice my brother's distress until it was too late. If only I had detected the signs of my brother's troubles earlier and stopped my husband's rampage, perhaps my brother would still be alive today, a thought that brought tears to my eyes. But looking at my brother's portrait, I remembered how he always put others before himself, worrying about everyone else. If I kept crying, he wouldn't be able to rest peacefully in heaven. Deciding not to worry him any longer, I wiped away my tears. I had to live a long life, for my brother's sake. I lifted my head, ready to start